What is the traditional Christian uh, doctrine of original sin? What do we mean by this?
Yeah, so what we're essentially saying is that Adam and Eve were made in an original state of goodness, right? So God creates the whole world, he declares it all good. And then he creates Adam and Eve and he says they are very good, right? So there can't be any corruption in Adam and Eve at their creation. Now, he doesn't yet call them perfect. There's still a sense in which they have to grow into maturity. They're created as spiritual infants, as the church fathers call them. So we're not saying they were created perfect, but that they were created good, very good. There is no flaw in their creation. But as we see in Genesis 3, they then eat the fruit of the tree which they were forbidden to eat. And as a result, they fall into sin and fall away from God. And God says, right, in the day you eat of this, you shall surely die. And there's a twofold sense of death there. There's a spiritual death of separating from God, but there's also a physical death that is brought in. And there's many passages in scripture that make it quite clear that originally humans would not have physically died. It's because we separated, right? God is the source of life. He has life in himself. And we separate ourselves from that life. And so we tend towards death and corruption, as the fathers say, and ultimately die. Now, Christ has become the new Adam and Mary as the new Eve, and have recapitulated the story of Adam and Eve. They have recapitulation is literally reheading. They bring the human race back under themselves, removing the curse of original sin on us, bringing us back into proper relationship with God, so that first we can be spiritually resurrected, we can be united with Christ. But secondly, so that we can actually physically rise from the dead. And so Christ has actually united himself with human nature and brought human nature itself out of corruption. So to go back to your original question, the doctrine of original sin is simply that all infants, right, at their birth, are already born with that fall from Adam and Eve, right? So they were originally in, if they had been born without Adam and Eve's sin, they would have been in a good relationship with God, but they're born of fallen. And so they received the punishment of the fall. And we are nowadays, I think, have a idea of punishment as simply only something that you personally did and you were personally guilty for. And there is that distinction in the past, but it's not as strong. We receive the consequences of what Adam and Eve did. We are liable to that punishment. And so we tend towards death and corruption from the very moment of our conception because of original sin. And when Christ came, he instituted the sacrament of baptism, so that even if the physical effects of it remain, so we still physically die, it removes the spiritual effect of it so that we can be united again with Christ and be in a good relationship with God. Because without that removal of original sin, we are unable to be in a proper relationship with God.